So just a warm welcome. My name's Tullis Matson. I'm the Managing Director of Stallion AI Services. And just put a small presentation together to show you what we do here at Twemlows Hall Farm and sort of the diversification and the innovation where we've come from a sort of a farming background that's been in the family farm for sort of well over 50 years, and where we've diversified and taken the farm to now, and hopefully found it interesting. There's quite a few slides to get through, but you can obviously soon flick through them. But it'll give you a bit of an idea and a background of where we're going. And yeah, I think there's an amazing future what we're doing here in the equine world, and obviously on other sides of things with the tissue banking and cloning and so on. So have a look and hope you enjoy the presentations, and we'll look forward to hearing from you. So just take you back of the history of Twemlows Hall Farm. The actual farm here where we are today is about 360 acres. Back in the 1960s, there was two or three other farms my grandfather and father tenanted as well. And they had about 350 cows on these farms, 2,500 pigs. So in those days, and I suppose even nowadays, that was a really quite a sizable farm. Unfortunately, back in 1968, the foot and mouth took its toll on us and literally wiped out everything, and we had to start from scratch again. Our main production on the farm was actually cheese, and we made Red Leicester, Double Gloucester, and our signature cheese really was Cheshire cheese. We seemed to win a lot of prizes at Nantwich Show and all over the country. You could find our cheeses in Waitrose and Marks and Spencers, and we produced about a ton of cheese a day, with the whey, the offshoot of obviously the cheese going to feed the pigs. So we were trying to be as self-sufficient as we can. So that was really in the heyday of the farm, but then things have moved on, and for one reason or another we had to stop making cheese, and that's why we diversified to where we are today. So the present day at the moment is the farm is split into two. My brother has about 330 acres where he has the mare insemination centre, and I've got my own business, Stallion AI Services, which is a stallion semen collection centre, which you'll find out a little bit more about it in a minute. Just going back to my brother's side, obviously on the diversification side, he set up on the farm a sort of 60-acre solar panels back in 2015, pushing out sort of 10 megawatts, and that lease runs for the next sort of 20-25 years. Just to give you a bit of an overview of the equine industry, I had to do a presentation somewhere else and had to find out a few more details about it, and I was quite amazed at the stats on it. There's over 1 million horses in the country, sort of 8 billion turnover with $500 million in exports, and we're the second biggest employer after farming, with sort of 19,000 equine businesses and 200,000 employees sort of directly or indirectly involved in the equine industry. So our part to play in this, the Stallion AI Services side, we employ 26 members of staff. Some are part-time, but mostly full-time, everything from office staff to a lab team and also a yard team as well. And that's increased by about 15% just in the last year. I'm very lucky. I've got a great team behind us, and we've done well in the last 2 years in awards. We've won the Shropshire Chamber International Trade Award in 2017, and last year we won the Technology Enterprise and Innovation Award 2017 as well, and this year we're very lucky to win this again as well, which I thought we were up against some stiff opposition. And last year it led us on to Small Business of the Year for the whole of the West Midlands for the Chamber of Commerce. So this is all down to the great team that I have behind me and the enthusiasm that they carry with us. So we've just moved into a brand new facilities. We just invested £2 million in this sort of state-of-the-art facilities with a new laboratory, new stable block as well, and we can go through now what we actually do here as well. So our current core business is we collect and freeze semen for UK and worldwide market. That's what we do most of the time. But there's a lot of offshoots now that we're doing that you'll find out a bit more about it. We collect and freeze semen. We do semen assessment. We do fertility investigations on stallions. We do a lot of lecturing consultancy. We've got a lecture theatre upstairs that can take 150 people as well. We have a quarantine centre, and we carry out worldwide export services. The business was established in 2000, although we started actually freezing semen in 96. We've frozen from well over 1,000 stallions now, maybe up to 1,200 stallions from well over sort of 47, 50 different breeds now. We've exported to 27 different countries, and our exports have gone up dramatically, which you'll see in a minute, over the last few years. We are one of 2 centres in the country that has got a license to export for worldwide distribution, and one of 15 that can do within the Europe. And I think we're one of the only centres that ships chilled semen to Europe, which means it has to be there within 24 hours. Just to give you a bit of an idea of the growth on the international trade side of things, we freeze in straws, and the straws from back in 2012, we shipped about 1,500 straws around the world, and that's increased to last year to nearly 7,500. And the countries, we shipped to about 6 different countries in 2012, and that's increased to last year we shipped to 21 different countries, overall 27. And this is a big growth area, I can see, and we're trying to branch out into more and more countries. We were the first ones to get into Kenya, to Israel, to Brazil, and now we're looking at other countries like Mexico and China and so on. The actual value of the exports, we've had to come up with these figures for some stats for government for the Brexit negotiations, and they want to know how much the equine industry actually exported in our sector. And yeah, you can see there's a good growth, steady growth, and we can see this was a very small part of our business for years, and you can see it's a major part of our business now. So the value of exports was £500,000 back in 2012, and this has gone up to over £4 million last year, and we can see a good steady growth. This can be attributed to sometimes some particular stallions, as you'll see on the next slide. So we're very lucky to have an array of stallions here. One of the main ones we've got in at the moment is a stallion called Big Star. He won at the Rio Olympics gold with the individual gold with Nick Skelton, and also won the team gold at the London as well. So he's one of the only stallions to win a double gold medal, winning the 2 Olympics. We sold nearly sort of £1.2 million worth of his semen last year. So he's a great stallion to have around. But we have had to fight off the Europeans. They've been trying to get the stallion over there because they believe they can really market him well. So we've done, it's great for the owners who've kept him in the UK, and because quite often these stallions do go abroad to be marketed. Other things we put on here, we carry out an open day every year. This year was a particularly good one. We were helped by the weather. We had well over 1,000 spectators. Again, we'd be about the largest open day in the UK for stallion shows. We had 27 stallions, and we raised over £5,000 for the Rare Breed Survival Trust, which we'll come on to a minute. The Rare Breed Survival Trust is very much close to our heart, and a lot of the work we carry out here does involve this charity as well. Other things that we do on the innovation and technology side is we put CCTV cameras in all the stallions' boxes. You might say, well, that's nothing new, but we did start this nearly 12 years ago. And this gives the owners, they can look on their iPhones or their computers, and they can monitor and look at their stallions 24 hours a day, which gives them a bit of sense of security and a sense of well-being, that they know their stallions are being well looked after. We're just about to create a new website this year, so people can order things online as opposed to over the phone, and eventually doing live streaming as well. We do a lot on social media as well to help market these stallions. Something as a business, we're always trying to be one step ahead of the opposition. So we're always trying to push the boundaries of science, do a lot of research and development. And this is something I'm very keen on, and this is something as a business, it's a business ethos. So we're always trying to make new extenders, where the new extenders means we can freeze more stallions and hopefully get better pregnancy results. So we're always investing in research and development. Something we've just helped launch and helped set the parameters of is something called the iSperm. Whereas normally, conventionally, when you're assessing semen, you look down a microscope or you have some pretty high-tech laboratory equipment to do it for you. Now we've helped develop with a company in Thailand, so you can analyze semen on an iPad. It's very straightforward to use. You literally got a case, you put the semen in the back of this case, and it tells you the quality of it. It records the semen quality as well, and tells you whether it's how good or bad it is. This can be used in equine, bovine, canine, so it can be used in multi-species right across the board. And of course, they can take it out into the field to use it as well. Something that we work very closely with is the Rare Breed Survival Trust. Now, my father was president of the Rare Breed Survival Trust. I'm a trustee, and the Rare Breed Survival Trust is here to try and preserve our rare and native breeds. Since it was formed in '76, they've never lost a breed yet, but we are very close to some of these breeds coming to extinction, especially on the equine side. So we are trying to find ways that we can preserve their semen. So there was a launch of the Heavy Horse Appeal this year, which this next video will show you the plight of them and how endangered they are. Spent $1.5 million on those brand new facilities here. We've built a state-of-the-art laboratory. We've made an extender immediately, we put in the semen, that actually freezes it at minus 196 degrees. So in 10, 20, 30 or 40 years time, we can actually repopulate a generation with that genetic line. It's amazing how you can bring something back to life that is so cold and then straight away get pregnancies. It's quite amazing. So moving on, this as you saw in that video with the Suffolk Punches, there's less than 72 females left in the country. I think there's only 300 left in the world. I'm afraid this breed will go extinct in 10 years if we don't do something dramatically to save them. These horses that you're looking at now, they were the backbone of the British farming many, many years ago during the war, and on the battlefields as well. There was over 1 million of them then. There's less than 1,000 of them left in the world now. And as I said, only 72 females left in the country. So we are trying to help with our new technology in the lab, trying to preserve these animals. This is 3 stallions you can see here where we're collecting and freezing so we can ship their semen out to Australia and New Zealand, and vice versa. They can send their genetic lines here, because the problem with them, the gene pool is getting so small, you're getting inbreeding, and then you're getting infertility problems. One of the other works we're doing, that was on the male side. Now we're looking at the female side. Problems with the female side, they're obviously only going to produce 1 foal a year, and obviously with these rare breeds we want to try and produce more. One of the ways we can do it is with embryo transfer, and as you can see on this picture here, the foal in the bottom right, that is an embryo that's come out of the mare in the top left. And this is the first foal ever born by embryo transfer from a Suffolk punch, this is. So this is one way that we can help with the breeds, and we carried out this about 4 or 5 years ago with success, and we're carrying on today. Other work we like doing or enjoy doing is we're setting up laboratories all over the world. We've set up a laboratory acting as consultants and helping them with all the expertise surrounding setting up the labs for collecting and freezing of stallion semen. One in Egypt, in Cairo in 2015, and Saudi Arabia in 2016. Kuwait, we set up a lab there in 2017, and in Abu Dhabi we helped these 3 vets setting up and trying to do the teaching and trying to get them to process semen to the highest standards so they got the best fertility results. A lot of this work is obviously with Arabian horses, which are obviously very popular out in the Middle East. Something else we like doing, we've been doing for the last 4 years, we do a knowledge transfer workshop. We've been doing this, say, for a while now, and we combine some of the top studs in Europe together. That we find there's no conflict of interest because they're abroad, and between the sort of 4 or 5 studs that we do, we most probably freeze about sort of 300 or 400 stallions a year, which you just can't get that expertise anywhere else without sitting down around a table. And each year we go to each other's stud. I helped set this up, say, about 4 or 5 years ago. This year we were at the pleasure of all having here, and we did a trip out to Chester Zoo, and it wasn't all play. We obviously did work as well, looking at different ways we can freeze from these stallions and so on. We do a bit of international training consultancy, so we go out and actually do the training for people out there as well abroad, teaching them how to handle stallions, and obviously teaching people from all different nationalities, and so there is quite a language barrier. It's something I really enjoy, I have to admit, and it's great to see different cultures. We do a reason about lecturing as well. I was very kindly been asked to lecture at the Farming Business Innovation show this year at the NEC, talking about the work we do with the Rare Breed Survival Trust, also doing presentations at the Beaver Congress, British Equine Veterinary Association, and that's one of the largest equine veterinary equine shows there is in Europe. Went to Texas this year, working with the Livestock Conservancy. The Livestock Conservancy is exactly the same as or similar to the Rare Breed Survival Trust, but obviously in America very similar aims, and we're trying to look at some of their bloodlines over there, because our gene pools are getting so small, to see if we can actually ship some semen from here to over there and vice versa, to stop some of the inbreeding, and hopefully stop some of these breeds from going potentially extinct. We're holding or hosting a conference here this year, just really on all the new techniques that are out there in the equine reproduction world, and we're very lucky. We've got in sort of 3 or 4 of the best lecturers in the world on the reproduction side, equine reproduction from America, and so on. So this is we're getting a lot of delegates from all over Europe, and from the UK, and hopefully they will be able to gain a great deal of knowledge from these lecturers and their expertise. So some other techniques that we've helped develop here is something called ICSI. We had the first ever ICSI foal on the ground over here. My brother's doing this next door. This is where getting one sperm cell and then putting it into one egg. A lot of this work's come from the human side, and we've actually got people from the Liverpool Women's Hospital who have actually helped us perfect this technique. Although it's quite widely used in places like Italy and Argentina, this is very much a first for the UK with this technique on the equine side. This video is really interesting. This video is one of the first ever videos of showing how an embryo splits and starts to form into a foal. So it takes a picture every 20 minutes. This is what they use, and again in the human labs, and you can see the cells slowly dividing and dividing and dividing. And it takes a picture every 20 minutes, and it's a time-lapse camera, and you can actually see how the inner workings and actually how life first starts as an embryo. This is our first success with the ICSI, born back in 2015. We've had quite a few foals since then. So this is obviously more on my brother's side, who's right next door. But this is quite a milestone really in equine reproduction to have this first foal on the ground. Something I've helped develop just in the last sort of 10 years is something called epididymal semen harvesting. This is where we take semen from testicles and freeze it down. Now, why would we do this? This is normally when it's done as a trauma, as a last-minute ditched attempt to try and salvage some semen. We had a stallion with a broken leg, and they had no semen available from him. The stallion hadn't frozen, so they asked, could we castrate the stallion? So they sent the testicles to us, and we froze the semen down, and this was the subsequent foal back, I think, in 2013. Now we carry out this usually about 2 or 3 of these a month. And it's one way of saving a stallion's genetic lines as a last resort. This proved so successful actually. This bull here was bought at the sales up in Scotland for, I think it was 13,000 guineas, and we were asked, it broke its leg, and we were asked, can we do a bull's testicles? And we thought, well, we've never done this before, but we'll have a go. They sent them down to us. The farmer, the bull had died 48 hours before, and the farmer said, look, whatever you can do, it's really precious to us, these bloodlines, these genetic lines. So we did it, and then a few years later we had a phone call to say we think that the calf has been born. It's the first ever calf that's been born via this method. So this is fairly sort of innovative new techniques that we're using. And then the press got hold of it. Obviously there wasn't any Brexit or anything else to talk about then. So they had a field day with this on the front page of the Sun, using all the expletives, but it gave us a lot of good press. I think it gave them a lot of good press, and people now know this technology is out there, which they never really did before. Also, what we're doing now is working with camels, and we are very lucky that we've been out to the Middle East a few times now, and the camel's semen is very tricky semen to work with, and they find it very difficult to freeze this semen. So we're out there trying to help them do this. You can see that one on the bottom left is a beauty camel, and the one on the right is a racing camel. Believe it or not, the beauty camel is the one that's worth the most. That camel on the left was it was sold for 25 million dirhams, which is about £5 million, believe it or not. Yes, I know you wouldn't think there's much in beauty camels, but obviously there is. But they're reproductively, they're very difficult to freeze. So we've gone out there to try and help them freeze. This was last November, to see if we can help them freeze the semen. Other work we're just looking into now is sexing semen. Now in the bovine world, this is quite prevalent, and is quite widespread, but in the equine world it's not, because the semen doesn't freeze very well, doesn't sex very well to do with the shape of it. So we were in talks went to Texas and spoke to Sexing Technology, who have the rights for sexing semen. They bought Cogent out, which are just down the road, which are a big bovine stud, and they're half an hour away from us. So hopefully in November we're going to start trying to see if we can sex equine semen. This is really important on the rare breed side of things, because like the Cleveland Bays, 2 years ago had 36 foals born, 27 or 28 were all male, and this can have a devastating effect when a breed is so rare, if there's a lot more heavier weights in males than there are females. So they want females born really, so they can carry on breeding at a better rate. Now, we're really starting to save the best to last. This is something I'm really excited in. We just set this company up in February, Gemini Genetics. So this is about storing tissue samples for possible future use, maybe in cloning, to preserve some bloodlines and then maybe reintroduce those species, God forbid anything happened to them. We're hopefully going to be one of the first tissue banks in the UK to start storing tissue samples for cloning for future. It does sound maybe a bit Jurassic Parkish, but you look at the northern white rhino that's gone extinct. This is a way that we could maybe save some of these rare endangered animals. So we're always trying to be at the forefront of technology. It's really exciting. We're linked in with Chester Zoo and other zoos as well to try and save their genetic lines, and also we're doing this with some of our rare breed horses as well. We've got one clone here already. I think it's the only clone stallion in the country in the UK. It's a clone of Gem Twist. It's called Merker's Gem. It's a show jumping stallion. Gem Twist is one of the most prolific show jumpers of all time, and now he was a gelding, so obviously you can have a young stock. So the only way we get a stallion is obviously clone him, and now we've got this stallion here that stands with us. So we had this article written about us about sort of a month ago, and it was sort of highlighting the work we do with this new tissue bank and what it can do for these rare endangered animals. Believe it or not, there's 25,000 species in the next 3 years will go extinct, and 80% of that is man-made, 20% through natural causes going to go extinct. So some of these species we don't barely even know about. This, as we've heard about you've heard about the northern white rhino going extinct and how we can bring that one back. There's something called the mountain chicken frog, which you may not know about, but there's only 7 animals left in the world, or 7 frogs I should say left in the world. So there's some very rare endangered animals, and one way we can preserve these animals is we can preserve their tissue samples, and as I say, that's what we want to start here. There's a seed bank that's called the Millennium Seed Bank that sits down south, so if there's a catastrophe they could repopulate the world with all the seeds of the trees, but there isn't anything on the tissue bank. So we want to be one of the first tissue banks for rare endangered animals all around the world to be stored here as well.
This is Merker's Gem. Remarkably, he's a clone of a horse called Gem Twist, who was renowned the world over for being one of the best show jumpers of all time. And he's a stallion, so he can breed. And depending on where your ethics lie, whether there's the willingness and the money, perhaps scientifically, this is another way of saving breeds from extinction.
We work very closely with Chester Zoo. We've been working closely with Chester Zoo for a few years now on the epididymal side. So when they have to put an animal down, they send us the testicles, and that's one way of preserving those stallions' bloodlines. So we freeze the semen, and then it's frozen there indefinitely, and then later on, if we need to inseminate any of these lions or anything like that, or on the goods, we can do by thawing this frozen semen out. As I say, other work we've been working with Chester Zoo, they're only half an hour away from us, is now we're hopefully just about to start doing this tissue banking, and there's various animals that we've already started doing. With the logo, the logo is bank it or lose it. Basically, if we don't bank some of the semen, these tissue samples, we could lose these animals forever. Other collaborations we work with somebody called Imke from Hamburg Zoo. Our innovative freezing extender that we freeze our stallions with actually works very well in freezing elephants and rhinos and wildebeest semen as well. She works out there on a big conservation side. There's about 50 elephants a day that are being poached. So although there is quite a few numbers, they are dramatically shrinking year on year, and again soon they will become really endangered as well. And a way of trying to preserve some of these animals is obviously again freezing some of their semen, and we're very proud to be working closely alongside these experts. We had Owen Patterson here not so long ago, and he very kindly had a look around our centre to see what we were doing. He's our local MP, and see how he could help. And one of the things he was helping us with is the exports. We've got a lot of issues with exports, raising export papers. But yes, he had some very kind words that he put on Twitter for us, saying about his time here looking around. Also, yes, we've done well with famous people coming around. We had the Princess Anne actually officially opened our centre on the last week in February. She came. She's obviously very horsey herself, so I'd like to think she enjoyed her visit looking around. And we gave her a demonstration of a stallion semen collection. She looked around the labs. She met all the team, which I think is the most important side of it. They're the ones that sort of really make this business happen. And she's treasurer of the or president of the Suffolk Punch Society as well, which are the ones that are really endangered as well. So she had a keen interest in them as well. So our future goals, what's happening? So we're looking into obviously semen sexing. Tissue banking is obviously a big thing. Further development of our lecturing and training courses that we have here. Development in unique extenders. We're actually taking on a PhD student from Nottingham Trent University to really look and see how we can freeze these stallions as well better. Further technology in freezing as well, as we were saying. Working closer with zoos to cryopreserve and do the tissue banking from their rare endangered species as well. So a big thank you for your time. Hopefully we've demonstrated the diversification we've done here is really second to none. I'd like to think we love what we do here. We love to make a difference. We like to make the impossible possible, but it's all down to our teamwork. And without them, we are nothing. And really, they all make a difference. And that's one of our ethos is to everyone here can make a difference, whether it's out in the yard with the stallions, in the office, or in the lab, trying to preserve these stallions and these rare animals. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Hope it wasn't too long. Sorry if I went on a bit, and look forward to hearing from you.